Hello friend, welcome again to my channel Critical Catalyst. Now we will start discussion on hemodynamic monitoring, which is one of the 6 stations of the IDCCM practical examination. We will discuss hemodynamic monitoring in 3 to 4 lectures, and today in this lecture we will discuss about intra-arterial blood pressure monitoring. Arterial line is often inserted for invasive blood pressure monitoring. Intra-arterial blood pressure measurement is often considered to be the gold standard for the blood pressure measurement. Despite of increased risk, cost and need for technical expertise for placement and management, its utility in providing crucial and timely information overweighs its risk in many cases. Arterial line is indicated in hemodynamic monitoring, especially in acutely hypertensive or hypotensive patient. In patient on vasoactive drugs like on vasodilator or vasopressor drug, and especially in septic shock patient. It is also indicated in those patients who require repeated blood sampling like ARDS patient on mechanical ventilator, evaluation and management of acid base disorder, and in patient with limited vascular access. It is also indicated to predict the fluid responsiveness using pulse pressure variation, systolic pressure variation or stroke volume variation. Some diagnostic and therapeutic procedures like vascular stenting, intra-aortic balloon pump and arterial embolization. The contraindications are classified as either site-specific and general or absolute and relative. Absolute contraindications are abnormal modified Allen's test, local infection, thrombus or distorted anatomy, severe peripheral vascular diseases, active Raynaud syndrome. This is specifically for the radial arterial line. Also refusal by the patient is absolute contraindication. Relative contraindications include supratherapeutic coagulopathy, infusion of thrombolytic agent and low platelet count. Common site for arterial line includes peripheral arteries like radial artery, brachial artery and dorsalis pedis artery, and central arteries like femoral and axillary arteries. Out of this site, radial artery and femoral arteries are most commonly used. Preparation of arterial line insertion include to take written and informed consent, then to check collateral blood flow, and then to give a position for the arterial line insertion. Collateral blood flow is checked by Allen's test and modified Allen's test. In modified Allen's test, the patient's hand is initially held high while the fist is clenched and both radial and ulnar arteries are compressed. This allows the blood to drain from the hands. The hand is then lowered and the fist is opened. After pressure is released over the ulnar artery, color should return to the hand within 6 seconds, indicating a patent ulnar artery and an intact superficial palmar arch. Allen's test is performed identically except these steps are executed twice, once with release of pressure from the ulnar artery and once with release of pressure from the radial artery, while occlusion maintained on the other artery. Other methods to check the collateral circulation are pulse oximetry, plethysmography or Doppler flow measurement. Components of intra-arterial blood pressure measuring system include intra-arterial cannulas, fluid-filled tubings, pressure transducer, infusion or flushing system, signal processor, amplifier and display. This is arterial line. Transducer is a device that converts energy from one form into another form. Pressure transducer converts kinetic energy into electrical energy. There are two types of transducer, intravascular transducer and external transducer. Intravascular transducer is located on the catheter tip, which is prone for thrombus deposition and error. External transducer is connected to the pressure source by fluid-filled tubing and catheter, which is called as hydraulic coupling. External transducer is most commonly used in clinical practice. It has stopcock, flush and two ends for the attachment, one to the catheter and one to the saline pressure bag, and it has a one cable to connect with the monitor. This is the complete assembly of intra-arterial blood pressure monitoring system, which include arterial line, the saline filled non-compressible tubing which should not be greater than 1.2 meters, stopcock, transducer, continuous flush device with a fluid bag pressurized to 300 mm of mercury, and electronic monitoring equipment which include signal processor, amplifier and display. The flush device provides a continuous infusion of saline at the rate of 1 to 3 ml per hour to prevent retrograde blood flow and thrombus formation. Fourier's analysis. The arterial pressure waveform is a complex waveform. It consists of fundamental wave, which is base sine wave or pulse rate or first harmonic, and series of other harmonic waves, which are sine waves of smaller amplitude and higher frequencies. The process of analyzing a complex waveform in terms of its constituent sine waves is called Fourier's analysis. The normal arterial pressure waveform consists of systolic phase, the dicrotic notch, and diastolic phase. The systolic phase corresponds to the opening of the aortic wall, the dicrotic notch representing the closure of the aortic wall, and diastolic phase representing the distal runoff of blood into the peripheral circulation. The peak in the systolic blood pressure, also called as tidal wave, nadir, is diastolic blood pressure, and area under the curve is mean arterial pressure. Factors determining the systolic upstroke are force of left ventricular contraction, left ventricular stroke volume, and compliance of the central arteries. To set up transducer, we need to do zeroing and leveling. For a pressure transducer to read accurately, atmospheric pressure must be discounted from the pressure measurement. This is done by exposing the transducer to the atmospheric pressure and calibrating the pressure reading to 0. The level of transducer is not important. For leveling, the pressure transducer must be set at the appropriate level in relation to the patient in order to measure a blood pressure correctly. This is usually taken to be level with the patient's heart at the fourth intercostal phase in the mid-axillary line. This is called as phlebostatic axis. In either right or left lateral decupitous position, the transducer should be leveled at the mid-sternum. A transducer too low overreads, a transducer too high underreads the blood pressure. This is a diagram showing the phlebostatic axis. Phlebostatic axis should be parallel to the ground, whatever is the position of the patient. Damping is anything that reduces the energy in the oscillating system will reduce the amplitude of oscillation. Some degree of damping is required in all systems, called as critical damping, but if excessive or insufficient, the output will be adversely affected. An underdamped system leads to enormously high systolic blood pressure and low diastolic blood pressure. On the contrary, overdamping results in underreading of systolic blood pressure and overreading of diastolic blood pressure. However, the mean arterial pressure is relatively unaffected in both the cases. This is a diagrammatic representation of overdamped and underdamped arterial waveform. The factors leading to overdamping are air bubble or clots in the arterial system, loose connection, kinks in the tubing, arterial spasm, narrow and compliant tubing, and low flush back pressure. The factors leading to underdamping are excessive tubing length, tubing connected to stopcocks, and patient factors which are tachycardia, high cardiac output, and hypothermia. Whether the degree of damping in the monitoring system is appropriate can be assessed at the bedside by the fast flush test or rapid flush test or square wave test. By briefly opening and closing the continuous flush device, which exposes the system to a flush of fluid with a pressure of 300 mm of mercury, producing a square wave displacement on the monitor, followed by a few smaller oscillations and a return to baseline. An optimal fast flush test results in one undershoot followed by a small overshoot and then settles to patient waveform. In optimal damping, 1 to 2 oscillations before return to normal. In overdamped system, less than 1 oscillation before return to the normal, and in underdamped system, greater than 2 oscillations before return to normal. The fast flush test should be done for 1 to 2 seconds. When we are doing the fast flush test, the speed of the IV fluid, which is about 60 ml per minute, but at the rest, fluid flow through the high pressure system is about 1 to 3 ml per hour. This test is used to determine the natural frequency and damping coefficient of monitoring system. Natural frequency is determined by dividing the paper or display speed by the interval between the two successive oscillations. That is, natural frequency is inversely proportional to the time between the adjacent oscillations peak. Damping coefficient can be calculated by measuring two successive peak amplitudes and determining their ratio. The ratio of amplitude of second oscillation wave to that of the first oscillation wave. The fast fluid test should be performed frequently, at least every 8 hours, with every significant change in the patient hemodynamic status after each opening of the system, that is for either zeroing, blood sampling or tubing change, and whenever the waveform appears damped. Pulse pressure variation and stroke volume variation may be used to assess intravascular volume status. Stroke volume variation greater than 10% and pulse pressure variation greater than 13 to 15%, then it is considered that patient is fluid responsive. The variation of the arterial pressure waveform like pulse pressure variation and stroke volume variation that occur during respiration can be observed in this graph. The pulse pressure variation and stroke volume variation can be calculated using this formula. Local complications include bruising, pain, swelling, hematoma or bleeding. Other complications include vasospasm, thrombosis, particulate or air embolism, accidental intra-arterial injection of medication. To avoid this, we should always label the arterial line and mention that you should not inject any medicine through this line. Dissection, pseudoaneurysm and arteriovenous fistula, these are very rare complications, but dissection commonly occur with the angiography. Local and systemic infection, iatrogenic blood loss and retroperitoneal hematoma. This is a complication specifically with the femoral arterial line. Iatrogenic blood loss can be minimized by collecting the blood for sampling through the nearest stopcock. These are my references, and friends, if you want to revise a particular part of the arterial line, you can directly go to that part by clicking the table of content in the description box, which is given below. Friend, please tell me in the comment below which thing you liked the most and which thing you didn't know before this video. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel to get further notification.